News alert, this just in, at least 10 are dead after violent storms rip across the eastern seaboard and the Midwest. The victims including 2 children ages 7 and 2. Hello everyone, I'm Kelly Wright.
And I'm Patty Ann Brown. Welcome to a brand new hour inside America's news headquarters. Those late night storms causing major destruction. Winds reaching 70 miles per hour, downing trees and knocking out power to millions. And that includes dozens of elderly residents forced to leave their apartment complex in Indianapolis. The fierce wind and heavy rain creating near whiteout conditions, sending these trees crashing down on tops of homes, cars and power lines. In northern Virginia, the storm killed at least 2 people. A young man was killed by a tree falling on his car, and a 90-year-old woman was crushed to death in her own bedroom. In Washington, D.C., roadways and sidewalks are littered with debris. The storm's also creating widespread power outages, leaving hundreds of thousands of people in the dark and without air conditioning.
Debbie, a relentless rain-producing tropical storm, moving at a snail's pace in the Gulf of Mexico.
We've seen Debbie weaken a little bit. We had a reconnaissance aircraft in there doing some patterns through the storm. It's now just barely a tropical storm.
The storm has flooded homes, shut down sections of a major interstate, and dropped up to 2 feet of rain in some areas. This is Wakulla County, south of Tallahassee, on the Panhandle. Debbie stalled and twirled off these shores, releasing a constant downpour. And when over 20 inches of rain falls in 24 hours, this is what you experience. 2 to 3 feet of water on roads. Getting through these places is not easy.
If we get power back.
Unless you have one of those.
I've been right here about 18 years and no. Never seen no water like this in this short amount of time.
That epic wildfire in Colorado and the massive exodus underway right now. At this moment, you can see right here, families scrambling to safety. Cars are bumper to bumper, more than 32,000 evacuated so far in a fire moving so fast it doubled in size overnight. And now bearing down on the more than 400,000 people living in Colorado Springs.
In a matter of hours, these Colorado suburbs became a raging inferno. Dozens of homes consumed by flames, hundreds of families tonight desperate for answers. Some 32,000 horrified residents stuffed belongings into their cars and scrambled to get to safety, including 700 cadets and personnel from the Air Force Academy, which was partially evacuated.
I've never seen anything so scary.
Many people captured the terrifying moments on their cell phones.
It's happened. It's coming over the hill.
The fire doubled in size overnight, scorching more than 15,000 acres. The evacuation zone mapping the path of the flames, at times moving at a rate of 3 football fields a minute. Yesterday's 65-mile-per-hour winds fueled the blaze out of control, lifting an explosion of red-hot embers, some as heavy as a pound, carrying them as far as a half-mile away, where they showered down on nearby homes. Those with wooden shake-shingle roofs didn't stand a chance.
It's virtually starting hundreds, if not thousands, of little fires in front of itself as it goes.
More than 1,000 firefighters from across the country are battling this blaze, the top firefighting priority in the nation right now. Military C-130 planes dropping retardant from above. Still too early to say just how many homes were lost.
It's just like house after house after house after house.
What's your reaction to what you're seeing down there?
Wow. Just crazy. Like, I grew up here. Like, driving around all these roads and stuff. It was like my neighborhood. Like my friend, yeah. I feel like I can see my friend's house on fire right now. Yeah, I thought I was just gonna like stay hug him out, but I mean, it came down the foot. It's like I kind of like thought in the back of my head like how crazy it would be if it actually happened, and I'd never.
For the first full day of summer, every state in the lower 48, except North Dakota, is expected to have at least 90-degree weather until Saturday. The Northeast is breaking heat records these days. Temperatures in many of those places are expected to feel like 100 degrees or more because of all the humidity. At least a dozen states are dealing with heat warnings right now.
We're forecasting above normal temperatures for most of the country, especially into the central states where there's been expanding drought, and especially in the southwest, which has been suffering through a very rough wildfire season.
Farmers across the Midwest are worried the heat and lack of rain will devastate their crops. New York City officials are scrambling to get emergency cooling shelters open. Most of the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast can expect even hotter temperatures today.
Next, an unusually hot summer has magnified the dry conditions throughout much of the country, and it's taking an especially tough toll on farming. Ray Suarez has our story.
Many areas in the southern U.S. and southern plains are suffering from parched pasture lands, wilting and dying crops, and a loss of livestock. Huge wildfires have swept across tinder-dry trees and forests in several states over the past few months. Now, new research by the National Drought Mitigation Center shows 12% of U.S. land is in the midst of an exceptional drought, the largest contiguous area to suffer such difficult conditions in a dozen years. The hardest hit states are Texas, Louisiana, Oklahoma, and New Mexico, with 100% of each state experiencing drought. Arkansas, Georgia, and South Carolina are also very dry, with 95% of each of those states showing drought as well.
We take a closer look now at the impact this is having on farming with Frank Morris of KCUR Public Radio and Harvest Public Media, a local journalism center dedicated to agricultural reporting. He joins us now from Kansas City, Missouri. And Frank, it's midsummer, it's hot, it's always hot. So what's different in extent and degree about this summer?
It's record-breaking in Texas and Oklahoma and parts of Kansas. You're seeing, in Texas, you see the driest February to June on record. In Oklahoma, you're seeing the hottest weather since 1936, and hottest and driest since 1936, the height of the Dust Bowl. In Kansas, there are some places where it's barely rained in a year. You're talking about an inch or just a little bit more precipitation. So the whole soil system is just completely bone dry powder down as far as the subsoil goes.
Are we talking about farming areas now where they're not just expecting lower yields or lower quality product, but looking at the possibility of losing entire crops?
Well, they've lost crops. I mean, in the wheat harvest in Texas and Oklahoma, and again, southwestern Kansas was terrible. They've given up on corn. You know what they're doing, Ray, is they're baling dead corn stalks in Texas and even Missouri and Oklahoma and Kansas, baling it up to feed to cattle because there's no cattle feed otherwise grown locally. So, yeah, you've lost a hay crop, 2 or 3 hay crops. Usually cut that 4 times. You're lucky to get 1 cutting this year. The wheat crop was terrible. The corn crop is abysmal unless it's irrigated. And even there, a lot of farmers are having to give up on half the irrigation circle in order because they can't pump the water out of the ground fast enough and get it onto and to allow the corn to grow as it should. Before they can't get it on fast enough while this thing's going around the circle. So it's pretty grim out there in the southern plains.
What about the next crops, the plantings for later this year? Are they in trouble as well?
They sure are. The wheat crop is supposed to go in. You would normally start planting that maybe next month and in through November. This year, the ground is so dry, it's like powder, so the wheat won't be able to germinate unless they get some good rains. Out in western Kansas, they call that dusting in. You know, I dusted in 140 acres today, or what have you. That means they're planting the corn in powder that's so dry it can't possibly grow. And to do that, you have to double down and plant, corn, I'm talking about wheat. You have to double down and plant extra seed, maybe twice as much as normal, because you know that the growing season is going to be shorter, so you won't have time to get the kind of yield you want. That means you need to spend more money and really hope and make a bet that you'll get some rain later.
And good evening again. Some Aqua Indiana customers are getting their water from the city of Fort Wayne now.
It's the solution to recent problems with low water pressure in Aboit Township. News Channel 15's Lamar Holliday joins us now with what it means.
Well, Mark and Henry, the city has stepped in to help since Aqua officials say customers aren't taking proper steps to conserve. All sun and no rain. Mother Nature's ingredients behind Aqua's water woes. The water company has asked its customers to voluntarily cut back, but to no avail.
Even though we've asked customers to reduce unnecessary water use, sprinkling, washing cars, things of that nature, our request pretty much has gone unheeded.
Now, customers have complaints. Low rainfall and high usage of water led to a water main break earlier this week, affecting water pressure. Since then, the water main break has been fixed, according to Aqua officials, but they say people are still not listening to their plea.
We really traced it back to lawn sprinkling, and I've driven by a lot of places in the last 2 days, and people are still watering.
Even after Aqua officials have asked customers to not use excess water, as you can see, people are still watering their lawns, and officials say that is the exact problem why people are having low pressure issues and why the city of Fort Wayne has to step in to help.
Aqua Indiana contacted us earlier this week and asked if it would be possible for us to assist them on a temporary basis with supplying adequate water and pressure for some of their customers. 1,400
customers will be affected by this temporary change. These housing additions will all be using Fort Wayne water until further notice, and the city of Fort Wayne says it has plenty of water to help, but Aqua officials are asking their customers to help as well, conserve and only use water when necessary. I also did ask Aqua why it doesn't enforce the water restriction, and Etzler tells me there's no enforcement mechanism in place. He says Aqua is currently looking into putting in some type of enforcement into its policy, and that it must be approved by the Indiana Utility Regulatory Commission, and the city says it's been in talks with Aqua to help supply the water to customers in hopes this temporary agreement could open the door for more conversations about making that happen.
Okay, thank you so much.
Well, Indianapolis Water issued an urgent request tonight saying, please stop watering your lawn. This is their coverage area, and it's a precaution that they're taking as demand for water actually increases.
24-hour News 8's Lauren Lowry breaks down what all of that means. Lauren.
Yeah, guys, usually this time of year, customers of Indianapolis Water actually use about 140 million gallons of water a day. That's normal. But right now, because of this heat wave, they're seeing about 220 million gallons of water used every single day. It's not a number they like to see, and they're asking people to curtail their usage. But when you're talking about businesses like Weavers here, they depend on water to keep them in business.
When the sun beats down on central Indiana, nothing escapes the heat, especially not the flowers.
We stay on them sometimes twice a day.
And is that something that you've only just had to start doing this week?
Yeah, this weather's crazy.
Pam Cosell has been co-owner of Weaver's Lawn and Garden in Broad Ripple for almost 50 years, and the extreme heat has forced double-duty watering on the annuals. It's necessary to keep the business alive. But it's the opposite of what Indianapolis Water is asking consumers to do.
We're just simply asking, making a voluntary request that our customers back off on the lawn watering until Sunday evening.
An analysis by Indianapolis Water shows that between 40 and 60 million gallons of water daily are being used just for watering lawns. It's what they consider unnecessary use until the extreme heat subsides, and they're pleading with users to stop.